Hey everybody, this is my first attempt at or my first video I've ever done, and I've been thinking about this podcast or presentation for quite a while, and I want to share, and I want it to be a place where people can come and talk about serious health conditions and the challenges that that can that can present, and I want to share some about my story just to get kick it off, guess, so to speak. And I hope this will grow into something where we can have an interactive uh, experience and we can each or all share different things. We can ask questions, make suggestions for future broadcasts. And I'm just going to start off with what happened to me. Um, I was born with hemophilia, factor 8, which just means your blood doesn't clot properly. And there were lots of health issues growing up, a lot of trauma, a lot of anxiety for me. Lots of people can cope with it probably better than I did, but I had anxiety, depression. I had serious opiate addiction, and still have to deal with that today. And we'll get into that maybe more in the future because I think pain pill addiction, opiate addiction, drug addiction is a huge problem in the chronically ill population, and maybe I can come up with a better term in the future for that. I don't mean it to be a derogatory or a negative term. It's just the way it is. Some of us are born with chronic illnesses, and as I was during the treatment phase of hemophilia, it was almost non-existent when I was born, which was 1962. And as I grew up, some blood transfusion type products became more prevalent and more effective in treatment. But for years, my brother and I would bleed into joints or muscles, gosh, every 10 days to 2 weeks. During school, we'd miss a lot of school, just a lot of trauma for him and me and our families, particularly our parents at that time. Lots of challenges. And so when these treatments became available, it was great. Uh, it really made a difference in our lives, in my life especially. I started to be able to deal with the opiate addiction and have to learn about all of the things that brings with it, and had to grow up. As you all know, in the addiction community, the recovery community, you got to see things the way they are. Uh, and have some help to be accountable, to learn how to live differently and not get the answer in the bottom of a pill bottle every day. But the real thing I want to share is, or the main point, is to never give up. Um, I'm going to just kind of move along and share what has happened to me. Uh, and I go back to when I was a young man, um, back in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s. These blood products, it was spun down or created from a vat of several blood donors, hundreds, I think. And hepatitis A and B at that time were pretty prevalent, and was infected with both those. But the real challenge was that came later in my life was hepatitis C, which back then was called non A, non B. And my brother and I both were infected with that probably earlier than we realized. But over my lifetime, or over up until I was in my mid 50s, which I was never supposed to live that long, by the way, which was for me, it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. I just didn't understand uh, how I was supposed to cope. Um, and so the hepatitis started to attack my liver although for years I didn't have any, uh, at least that I was aware of, side effects of the hepatitis, the different types. But uh, I know it was doing damage, and I didn't treat it back then. Some of the hemophiliac population and the hepatitis C population did with interferon, and I don't remember the name of the other medication, but for some people, it was a hell of a tough treatment, almost like having the flu. I've had it just heard it described from other hemophiliac friends over the years, and other people I've met recently or in the last 10 years through the liver uh, clinic here. I'm from Oklahoma City, and we have an amazing liver clinic. And I'll get into the other wonderful things we have here that frankly saved my life. But I kept moving along, trying to learn to live as best you could. And as for me, as successfully as I could with the chronic health condition of hemophilia, pain, drug addiction, hepatitis, uh, other ancillary, or I think they call them, well, I don't remember right now, but morbidity, other morbidity issues that hemophilia that brought with it back then. And, you know, did my best. I didn't realize how the hepatitis and the other issues brought me down and made me a lot more tired than I probably would have been without all of that. That's kind of a duh aha moment, but I'll tell you why I say that. So I'm going along for years, battling addiction, and it is a battle, uh, and the depression and anxiety, obsessive type thinking, obsessive compulsive. Um, there were a lot of good things happening too, but that's not what I want this to be about right now. Is uh, when I got, by the way, I got married to a wonderful lady, my first wife, and had a beautiful daughter. Just the light of my life. She's quite a wonderful lady herself, quite an inspiration. She's had some things to deal with herself that she's been a real example to me. Uh, but after that time, I got divorced. The addiction didn't help at all. And my first wife and I were just kind of lonely people that met each other. We grew up sort of together. And I loved her dearly. I mean, I was so excited that she loved me and cared for me. And, when you're handicapped, which I was using crutches by then, and frankly, I've used them now for almost 40 years uh, over my lifetime. But, um, I just was so excited. And as I said, she was is a neat person. Um, but we got divorced. I was working, not like some of you all do. My father owned an insurance agency. And back then, again, my brother and I would have periods where we were sick, where we couldn't come to work for a few days or several days. Uh, and that went on for several years. Um, and then the thing I want to get to, and I'm skipping over a lot, I want to talk later about uh, recovery and some meetings that I go to and went to. Treatment. I had to go to drug treatment. It was so bad. It runs in my family. I had an uncle with hemophilia and drug addiction that was as bad a drug addict as I was. And the thing that really messed me up is that I could get, if you had a bleed in your joint, you needed opiates for a few days, or at least I thought I did. It was very painful. Your leg can swell up, or your joint, frankly. Knees can get to the size of grapefruits. There's a few pictures, even bigger than that, of other hemophiliacs that have had really bad joint bleeds, especially back then. But uh, life kept happening. Some wonderful things happened to me. I had a lot of support. Um, and frankly, I reached out for support. I guess maybe I was desperate sometimes, but I took it upon myself to advocate for myself as best I knew how in the medical system, which can be a real challenge. Maybe we can, that'll be another topic for another day. Um, and that was a big part, I think, of me surviving and living. Excuse me. Bear with me. Um, so, my point, what I want to get to, frankly, is when I was 58, and by the way, I married a lady that I had known in grade school who's just been an angel, a beautiful angel for me. But I started to I started to notice that I was having a little trouble breathing, catching my breath at that age, at 58, uh, and really I didn't feel terrible, but I went and got checked out, and they've been monitoring my liver for, God, since I can remember, since they could measure hepatitis C. And I found out that my liver numbers started to really go down. Well, the ALT went up, and some other measurements got pretty bad, pretty high. They started to do the other liver tests, liver scans, and could see scarring, and cirrhosis is what it is. It's just like if I was a drinker, and I never did drink because I had hepatitis, and they tell you not to drink. I took plenty of opiates, though I probably didn't have to drink. I was handling my trying to escape, or I did escape, at least for a few hours with the opiates. Didn't help, I'm sure. But all of a sudden, my blood oxygen that you measure, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the things they put on your fingers, especially if you go into the doctor or to the emergency room or something, they'll measure what your oxygen level is. And mine all of a sudden started to plummet into supposed to be in the mid 90s percentage wise. All of a sudden, they were measuring me in my 80s, my 70s, and that's bad. Uh, I even went lower. Occasionally, I would read in the high 50s. So obviously, my body was adjusting. It had to adjust over all those years that I had hepatitis to not getting enough oxygen, because I don't know how it all works, but your liver uh, and your lungs are tied together. And I had pulmonary hypertension, which is another side effect. Most people with liver illness don't get that. I did. And that's just one of about several things that I feel like I've been unfairly uh, treated by the universe, because I kept getting, oh, I just felt like this is so unfair. Here's another disease that most people don't get, that I got, and it made my journey through the hepatitis C 10 times more difficult. Uh, and I want to talk some about that later. We'll talk about transplant journeys, but bottom line, I really started to deteriorate. As a matter of fact, my wife took me to some of the last appointments before my transplant of, you just got to stay checked out, stay tested. There's a lot of testing before a transplant. And it, I even had that trouble getting to him because I didn't have enough oxygen to my brain. I was tired. If it weren't for her and her support and her love, I would not have made it. And I probably would not have gotten a liver transplant, because it's a team effort with your spouse or your caregiver. And uh, God, that was even such a difficult and hard journey. But September 17th of 2006, excuse me, 2008, I received a liver. Um, I cannot put into words how generous the donor was. It's unfathomable to put into words what it meant. And I woke up, put me to sleep. I wasn't sure I was going to wake up, so I tried to make peace with that, with my parents and with my wife. Uh, Woke up and my hemophilia, my factor 8 hemophilia, was cured. They had known that that was going to happen. The doctors, they tried to tell me that I'd wake up without hemophilia. And the reason they knew, there have been some other hemophiliacs around the world, in Japan and Israel and some other countries where some old guys like me, our livers were destroyed by hepatitis C and or attacked, whatever you want to say. So several of us got to the point where we were about to die. And that's what a transplant does. It takes you from the brink of death to, like I said, I woke up and my hemophilia was cured. My pulmonary hypertension cured itself in took about a month and a half. I'll never forget the day that I could breathe and didn't have to have the oxygen. I can picture it to this day, what it felt like. And I was just laying in a rehab place, working to get more strength. And um, all of a sudden, I just didn't need it. It fell out of my nose a few times while I was sleeping, and I did not need it anymore. No more pulmonary hypertension, which is deadly. It's a deadly disease for most of us. And I can't put that into words either. Um, but the thing that I want to make this uh, presentation or these videos about, or I'd like to go live sometime where people can call in and share their stories. But I'll never forget, gosh, I had no idea really how sick I was about 2 years before my